Hi, welcome to According to Lou. I'm Lou, and According to Lou is my channel. And this is part 8, I think, of CBT. That means 2 months. I'm really tired today. I didn't sleep good. Okay, so we're going to go through 6 through 10 of ways to untwist your thinking. So number 6 is the survey method. The survey method. It says one way to evaluate a negative attitude is to ask yourself, would other people agree with this thought, that this thought is valid? You can often perform a survey to find out. So he gives an example. A man named Richard became very upset whenever him and his wife would argue, because he told himself people who really love each other don't argue. What kind of survey would Richard conduct? So he would go around to like maybe his parents or someone who's been married, a couple that's been married for a long time. You don't want to ask someone that's only been married for a year, but he would go around and ask people that have been married for a super long time if they ever argue and what are some kind of issues that come up. And he found that most marriages, people do not agree. In our society, we think that if we don't agree on the majority, then we just get a divorce, but that's not the way it should be. Because like a lot of times in marriages, you don't agree. Maybe you have religious beliefs that are different, completely different. So you feel that you're both kind of going, you're together, but you're both kind of going separate paths. So instead of holding hands and prancing down the same alley, you're going separate ways in the end. And that can strike an argument because you feel like, where's my future with this person if we don't have the same beliefs? That's just one. My nose is itchy. Kids can spark arguments because maybe your method of rearing them up is different. You know, there's a lot of things, but it's normal for you have to agree to disagree and just move on. So that's number 6. Number 7, define terms. When you have a negative thought, ask yourself, how am I defining the terms? What do I mean by this? Am I using vague labels that have no real meaning? This method is especially helpful if you are putting yourself down as a failure, a loser, or a jerk, or a fool. Once you try to define what it means to be a loser, a jerk, or a fool, you will usually see that your definition is meaningless and that it doesn't apply to you, since there really is no such thing as a loser, a jerk, or a fool. It's good advice. There's no such thing. How could I be something that doesn't exist? Okay. 8. The somatic, I think I'm going to say this wrong. Somatic method. When you feel upset, ask yourself if you're telling yourself, I should do this or I shouldn't do that. The somatic method is an effective way to combat should statements. Substitute the phrase like, it would be nice or it would be preferable in the place of I should. Instead of saying, I should go on a diet, you could tell yourself that there would be some advantages of dieting. Like advantages to dieting. Maybe your knees won't hurt from carrying all that blubber around. Or maybe the fat that's in your brain will thin out and you'll be able to think clearer. Or I'm not a scientist. I don't really know this stuff. So replacing should or should not with it be in my best interest to do something different, helpful helpful. Reattribution. I feel like I'm saying that wrong, so I'm going to spell it out. R-E line ATTRIBUTION. That's how it's spelled. Retribution. Re-retribution. One of the commonest cognitive distortions is called personalization and self-blame. Oh God. You put yourself down or blame yourself for a problem you aren't entirely responsible for. One antidote of personalization is reattribution. You attribute the cause of the problem to something other than badness. Ask yourself, what other factors may have contributed to this problem? Then develop a list of possibilities. The aim of this procedure is not to deny any mistakes you might have made, but to access the causes of the problem more objectively. If you contributed to the situation, accept it and try to learn from your experience instead of wallowing in self-loathing. So if I did something or a situation happens and I find that I contributed to it, I have to own it. If I made a mistake, I have to own it. You have to own it too. It's not something that you can blame other people for, because we know, come on, we all do this, we know when we've contributed to an issue, don't we? Yes, we do. And we know that maybe we were the cause of the situation or whether we weren't. So we want to be able to see that, accept that we were the problem or we weren't the problem, and move on from that. Maybe you have to apologize to somebody for your actions, or maybe you have to apologize to yourself for feeling a certain way. But without that, you cannot move on from there. And other people will struggle with it too. So it's just good advice. Everything that I read, I don't apply at all to my life, but I'm reading it to you because that's what I'm here for. Okay, number 10. I do try to apply these things. I'm just kidding with you. I think that self-awareness is very important. To know where maybe your strengths and your weaknesses are can help us build healthy relationships with ourselves, because we have to be able to accept ourselves. That's a whole different video. Okay. Number 10, cost-benefit analysis. The cost-benefit analysis is quite different from other cognitive techniques because it deals with your negative thoughts from perspective of motivation rather than truth. I have a problem with that. If there's no truth in the way I feel, then why bother if there's... That's my own little issue. Ask yourself, how will it help me to believe this negative thought, and how will it hurt me if it turns out the disadvantages are greater? You will find it easier to talk back to the thought. You can use the blank cost-benefit analysis form on page 114. Okay, so you can go online and put in cost/benefit analysis form, and it should come up as a some printable thing that you can do. Okay, so it deals with your negative thoughts from the perspective of motivation rather. Ask yourself, how will it help me? So if you have a belief or a feeling, or a thought, a negative thought, ask yourself, is that thought going to help me? It's kind of like constructive criticism, where we can either take it and hurt us, or we can take it and use that criticism as something that helps us grow further. I gotta go because we're at 10 minutes. As always, only according to Lou.